Hi, I'm Matteo Locane, independent pricing consultant, and in this video I'm going to walk you through an example of how smart pricing works in real life, more specifically in this case in the context of the retail fuel pricing industry. Now, I will be using a former employer of mine as the case study, and this is a branded wholesaler that owned and operated about 1,000 sites across Europe. I was part of the pricing team there. In fact, I was the lead for one of the countries. And I think we were quite well organized and we did quite well in many aspects. And of course, we didn't know we were applying smart pricing at the time, because smart pricing is the name I've given to this framework now. But looking back, I can clearly recognize how we were implementing the 5 commandments and, most importantly, the 6 pillars of smart pricing, which is what I'm going to talk about in this video. So let's start with the first pillar, which is leadership and culture. I would say there was definitely a strong degree of respect and acknowledgement of the skills and expertise of the pricing team. We truly were a strategic partner for the business. We got involved in decision making at all levels. Now, if I have to find something that we didn't do really well, it's probably on the training side. We heavily relied on the fact that most of our pricing team members came from the same background, because most of them came from the graduate program of our parent company. And so we sort of expected them to hit the ground running and pick things up as they did them. So if I had to give a rating from 1 to 5 to our performance in leadership and culture, I don't think I can give it a 5, but I would say I can give it a strong 4. Next is the second pillar, which is environment. Now, we fully understood the importance of context when it comes to pricing. And so we made sure that the pricing lead for each country, part of their job will be to learn the context. And we did that by speaking with the teams in country, but also by collecting our own data. So for example, we liked to run market research exercises every year in each of our countries to understand who the typical customer was and how they behaved and how they thought about fuel and about the price of fuel. However, I would say we could have done it in a more structured way. Sometimes it really was left to the pricing lead to be proactive and go out and collect the information. And if they didn't want to, they could just coast, so to speak, on the data that had already been collected. So again, I can't give it a 5, but I think I can give it a 4. So moving on to the third pillar, which is data. We were very strong believers in data-driven decision-making. It was our mantra. We used that sentence almost on a daily basis. We collected a lot of data from a lot of different sources. For example, in the country I was looking after, at one point we were scraping Twitter for competitor price data. We also automated a lot of the data collection where possible, which was almost all the time, but not all the time. And we had ways to spot inaccuracies and mistakes, even in manually collected data. So honestly, I don't think we could have done it any better. So on a scale from 1 to 5, from a data point of view, I have to give it a 5. On to the fourth pillar, which is process. Our pricing process was strong, and it was repeatable, and it was very heavily automated. In the country I was looking after, we consistently achieved automation rates that were over 95%. That means that over 95% of prices were calculated, reviewed, and sent to POS directly without manual intervention. And then we also all clearly knew what procedures to follow for the other 5% of prices, those that came in and required a manual decision. Also, strategy reviews followed a very clean, very streamlined process. After all, we had a small team, so processes had to be streamlined. They had to be efficient. So again, like for data, here I think I can give it a 5 out of 5. Now, the fifth pillar is tools. We were using a well-known fuel pricing software and we pushed it to the absolute limit. In fact, I can fairly confidently say that there were some new pieces of functionality that were brought in explicitly because we requested them, because we had tried to make something happen in every conceivable way and we just couldn't. So we needed the new functionality to do it. We knew our tool inside out. We had a strong relationship with the vendor, which meant we also knew how to get things fixed, and we could influence the roadmap of our vendor as well. Now, if I have to find something that we didn't do very well from a tools point of view, I think we could have been at the forefront of the AI and machine learning revolution, and we didn't quite do that. We preferred to rely on strong rules-based pricing. So because of that, I don't think I can give it a 5 out of 5, but a 4 out of 5 is absolutely not out of the question. And finally, the sixth pillar, KPIs. Again, data-driven decision making, what gets measured gets managed, yada, yada, yada. You get the point. We had KPIs, we had plenty of KPIs. We reviewed them daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly. It depended on the KPI. And so we always knew how we were doing, and we knew when it was time to address problematic situations. We also knew exactly how we were performing versus the previous week, previous month, previous year. However, what we missed was a measure of how we were doing versus the competition. So some kind of market share measurement. We didn't quite have that, and that's a shame. So again, not a 5, because if we had had the market share data, there would have been a 5. But without that, I can only give it a 4. So that's all for today. Hopefully this video has given you a fairly clear idea of what smart pricing looks like in real life. Now, if you're a fuel retailer looking to improve your pricing operations and the effectiveness of your pricing strategy, let's chat. Book a free intro call and we'll take it from there. See you soon.